I think that's how I'm going to introduce the show from now on. I feel like my podcast, anything that I do from this point forward, I just need to introduce with a heavy sigh. I think that's the yeah, I think that's just the vibe of the planet
Into
for
it.
the last like I mean really since 2016, but it's really gotten to be a shit show in the last 4 years.
Hmm.
So, welcome everybody on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I'm Erica Miley, mental and sexual health therapist for those of you who do not know. And I brought with me Garrett Shotwell, a friend, a lovely human being, also a therapist. Also has his own show as well.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm sad to be here today.
Absolutely. And in spirit, we have Amy Marshall, also a wonderful human being who again, like, we just make friends on Twitter. That's what we do.
Hmm.
Twitter has a lot of shit show qualities generally, but therapist Twitter is pretty all right. It's pretty rad as far as a place to be. If you've got to be anywhere on Twitter, it's a good place. So, I mean, I had recorded a wrap up the season episode of my show, Sex Talk with Erica Miley, and it just there's
That
nothing.
doesn't fit.
It just didn't fit anymore. It didn't.
Hmm.
There was nothing I could say. There was nothing that at all made any sense to be talking about some of the things that I talk about in there. Well, I mean, I'll wrap up the season, while we're all talking eventually. But
Actually, sorry, like this is just hitting me and it's a gross time. I'm not plugging you on my podcast. But
it's fine.
whenever this was leaked, actually was the day I was like gonna release and like put it on Twitter,
That's
of
right.
like, listen to this podcast. But I ended up just being like, your voice, like you have a lot to say and a lot of meaningful things to say, and you know a lot of stuff. So like here's Erica, but that's just kind of weird actually that we're here now.
Yeah, and I remember before we started recording that episode, you and I having just trying to manage our own uh feelings because it's this isn't going to be feel bad for a therapist day. Like, that's not what we're after here. But we we hold our own stuff while also holding our all of our client stuff. And today is probably just like every the last, like, I feel like they the last 60 days we haven't had there. Oh, here's the next fresh hell. Here's here's the next piece of garbage that we also have to talk about and manage our trauma responses about.
Yeah, it seems to be really piling on, to say it lightly.
Yeah, I don't. Piling on, I feel like, is a good description of what it feels like. So, for those of you who don't know, um, today the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, which is a seminal case that gave so many of us body autonomy. Let's be very, very clear about what this is. It's not just the right to decide about whether or not you want to be a pregnant person or not, but it's also about making decisions about your body. And Garrett, I think we should talk about it. Garrett was hesitant to be the one here with me today, and I told him I disagree. But I want to hear from you why you were hesitant.
For a lot of reasons. I guess kind of starting most inwardly, like I had like this beautiful, relaxing morning. I got acupuncture.
Oh, such a
Friday,
great
like
day
it
for
was
that.
kind of a minimal day. And then I saw the news, and honestly, I just like, and it's a privilege, but I felt the need to compartmentalize. And like my friends were texting me, and
Mhm.
I just was like, I can't handle this right now.
Yeah.
Um, Knowing kind of what's to come, like next week, especially working with clients, but
Mhm.
also, not knowing all the things, but like you and I have developed a friendship, so it's like I was going to text you earlier today anyway, just kind of a
Mhm.
heart, just letting you know that I was thinking of you, and
Yeah.
um, so it just kind of worked out. But I think the deeper feeling is that like who am like I don't want to add to the noise, so
Mm.
I want to be intentional and thoughtful and help people hold space. And I think a lot of people feel like what to do. I don't know enough. How am
Mhm.
I supposed to react? How is this going to impact me? I work with LGBTQ plus clients, seeing how this is impacting like transgender communities, and like bodies. So there's a far-reaching impact on a lot of this, but
Yep.
I guess mainly I said yes because of you, and also like to maybe in some way to model like it's okay not to know what to do.
Yep.
And it's okay to sit with that a little bit.
And in beautiful therapist form, you absolutely knew exactly what to say, Garrett. I don't even want to. I just the, you are absolutely right. Like that, I don't know what to do now. That it's so akin to our freeze response. I think you're preparing people for something that maybe they've never, maybe it's similar to some of the other trauma responses they've ever experienced, which is maybe cycling between a couple of these trauma responses, which is the paralyzation, the fight, and when you rage, when you want to just uh Amy posted something beautiful on Twitter today about like just different anger words. I think that it was like oh hold on, I can, because I definitely retweeted that shit because it was incredible. Um, that we need to be able to sit with these big emotions, but we also need to be able to have some words for them too. The words of anger, the words of fear. Oh, I found the words. Furious, irate, seething, infuriated, incensed, steamed, apoplectic. That was one of my favorites just because not only is it's not easy to say, but it's also neat to look at. It's like a cool word to actually look at. And murderous. That's also a really good word. So, it's the want to hold space, I think is um that's all I wanted to do today. After reading some of the decision, all I could think about was I want to go be with some people on the internet so that they know that however they feel today is okay. And
Yeah,
Garrett, I am so thankful for our new friendship, but also I'm thankful for the support of other therapists that I've met on TikTok, that I've met on Twitter, that hold space for so many other people, but also we have found ways to hold space for each other too.
yeah, it's an interesting community, and every like rage, I kind of envy people who can access their rage so quickly. But it is just kind of whatever shows up
Mm-hmm.
is okay because it's still happening.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I've seen lots of different uh, reactions kind of all over the place. Whether it was uh, the dogs are being rowdy on Garrett's side, so if you don't hear him for a second, that's why, y'all. Because this is real life, what we do. They, me and Garrett had to hear me tell my 9-year-old before we jumped on here, I need all of the internet. You cannot stream right now. uh, but I don't, kind of back to what you were saying about like not knowing if you're the right person, Garrett. I want to honor like what anybody out there who might feel that way right now, because the reality is you might be holding space for somebody who that you know that can get pregnant. But the thing that keeps rolling around in my head is that this has so much more to do with our choices about body autonomy and how we want to live our lives generally. Um, because my husband and I were talking this morning, and he was like, they've taken our choices as a married couple away. We've decided that we don't want to have any more children. And we've been through the pain of losing a pregnancy that we wanted and having to go through the D&C procedure. He was supportive and there for me, but we went through that together because emotionally it was one of the most awful things that we've ever been through. But it was something that had to happen. And now that we are at the place we are in our family, we don't want any more children, at least that way.
Mm-hmm.
And this now we're going to expedite the other types of birth control that we might have access to, but we're also very aware that we have some privilege in that, and not everybody has access to that. So I this 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 touches so many of us, so many.
Yeah, some of my really kind of all of my friends are female. um, and one of them just texted me this morning, which is how I found out, and it was just like, "Fuck." That's all it said, and it had a screenshot, and then just picturing her with her young daughter, and it's just a lot. It impacts so many people,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it, like you're saying, kind of running through scenarios of how it's working kind of through your life personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's very big.
It absolutely is, and for I mean, some I think I'm Garrett. Garrett already knows how nerdy I tend to be, and most of the people who listen to the show tend to understand how I love a deep dive. I love a deep dive into something that maybe not, I don't have a ton of expertise on, but I I spent some time with this when we had the leak decision. I spent some time with this to try to understand, like, okay, not only what does this mean for me, what does it mean for my clients, what does it mean for the therapists who work for me, because there are trigger laws in place in many states that we're waiting for today, and there are states who have included essentially things like bounties on people who are providing any kind of care. And there are many of us who are either mental and sexual health therapists who do help support people through grief and loss, through pregnancy loss. And we absolutely, and those other therapists are absolutely included in some of those provisions. And so I started to really understand that Roe is also the legal standing for other laws as well. And I don't want to speak too much out of my own field of expertise, but there are other risks for us to lose other things. And I think at the end of this, I'm going to make sure that we have lots and lots of links underneath the live so that people can find access to protection, so that people can find access to birth control, so that people can find access to, if they need to leave a state, to access services that they can. There's this really cool group of pilots. It's called Elevated Access. They're donating all of their time and access to any of the planes that they have access to help move people from one state to another if they need access to any kind of services. So if they not necessarily move them, like help them relocate, it's actually, oh, okay, no, this person needs access to an abortion now. We're going to make sure that they can get to a state where they can safely do that.
Damn.
But
that's beautiful.
It's incredibly badass. I'm just like, yes, that. So I'm compiling a list of every resource I can get my hands on to try to share not only with my clients, but with everybody listening, everybody here, so that we can make sure that people have access to services that they so are just going to desperately need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's I'm in Chicago now, but I'm originally from Louisiana, and there's some pretty scary legislation that happens in Louisiana right now. So sending a lot of space and energy to those individuals who are kind of in the thick of it. So when you were saying that, it, for a lot of people, I would imagine it's similar to my response, which is why I was like, I don't know if I need to be here. But it's, what do you do in this time to educate yourself more? Some people take action, some people fight, some people get angry, they freeze, they disassociate, like maybe this weekend, sometimes it is kind of the time for the low road, like our baseline, let's bring it down and just kind of get through it. But then there's also very real threats and danger immediately to individuals. And so I'm really happy to hear that you're well versed in like some actual resources.
And I'll make sure that goes out. It'll be attached to any of the live streams, but I think I'm going to try to see if we can get together a document or something to be able, people to be able to share or upload different resources so that we can find ways to have essentially like a common place to be able to send any therapist who is working with anybody who needs to access any kind of service. How many of us work with people who have been sexually assaulted? How many of us work with children who've been harmed? This goes so beyond like I think that's the thing that's so stuck in my head. There are too many details and too many for anybody to get in between you and your medical provider. There's too much information to be for any government entity to have anything to say about it. I'm gonna give a non-personal, non-Roe v. Wade example. My husband would be fine with this because we're dealing with it right now. He has COVID, but he also has asthma, and so we have done everything in our power to make sure that he has had every vaccine or any other way that he could make sure he's going to make it through COVID, right? One of the things that is available on the market for people right now is a therapeutic that can help shorten the length of symptoms, but also reduce the likelihood of lung damage. Sounds great, right? For people that have asthma, might be a good idea. No, it's not. For some people, it's not. He's on a certain kind of medication that actually that therapeutic could kill him.
Mm.
But him and his doctor had to have that conversation. Not anybody else. Not anybody on YouTube. Not anybody who has a opinion who sits at a pulpit. Not a church or religious organization should have no business making that decision for him and his doctor. There are too many. There are too many decisions that have to be made. That's why this is about a body autonomy. This isn't just about people who can get pregnant. It's of course about that, but it is bigger than that. And we have to remember that.
Yeah, and it's, I would imagine, or I guess I'm feeling it too, where it's um, too big to fully understand. And I think intentionally in a lot of ways, kind of
Mm-hmm.
reading the decision, which is, over 200 pages long. Um, it's okay if it takes you time, I guess, is a message to relay of it
Yeah.
just, it should take time. This should be something that we let sink in and we get really mad about and we take
Mm-hmm.
action in whatever way we can. But it is invasive. Um, it's quite terrible.
So the primary message here, whatever emotions you've got today are fine. If you need to step away, step away. If you need to go play with puppies and make tacos, do that.
Mhm.
If
Yeah, it's still happening. It's I have clients sometimes who like come in or kind of request an appointment like as something's unfolding, and
mm-hmm.
if they can tolerate it and have the support, it's like let's connect once you're kind of through it a bit. Like it's still a kind of a sticker. It's a shock. It's a shock to the system, and that takes time.
It does, especially after so many shocks to the system.
Mhm.
Even though we all knew that this was coming because we've been dealing with the since the leak, it didn't. That doesn't. I don't. For me, it hasn't mattered today. It's just because I knew it was coming didn't make it any less distressing. So, any one of you that is struggling today, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. You need to log out of social media, or if you need to jump on social media and join some of us on Twitter and be like, I just need to be with other people who know that this is just such a giant pile of dog crap. Um, and I am definitely full disclosure one of those people who tends to be uh, likely to fight.
Mm.
It's usually the I let myself be sad, and then usually in the next day or two after something happens, I'm like, okay, where's where's my boxing gloves? Let's get down to it. That's usually how I operate. Because for me, I'm not saying that that needs to happen for anybody else. For me, I feel like I am moving at all. not necessarily forward, but moving it all. So, any one of you who are like me, I will make sure that there is a giant list of resource organizations you can give either a lot of money to, a little bit of money to, or your time, or if you need to access any of those organizations, I will make sure that you know how to do that.
Yeah.
Amy,
Well,
thanks for sitting with us and holding space with us, therapists. You give us such
yeah.
joy on Twitter. And Garrett, tell them about your show because your show is badass.
Thank you. You were on it. And honestly, like, I feel like this is a topic that needs to be explored more in depth to, gosh, maybe a whole season, but essentially it's my relationship with, and it's with a new guest each episode. And a guest talks about a relationship that they're kind of have a beginning, middle, and ongoing end with, whether it's your relationship with sex, your relationship with body autonomy, your relationship with money. Uh, and we kind of do a deep dive and explore that. And kind of talking to what you said about how you're a fighter, I think I'm more of a freezer, and that, especially as therapists, I know, so we're connected on Twitter therapy and um, or therapist Twitter, and a lot of people listen to your platform, especially on there. And it's um, therapists, like you said, it's not a like, oh, be sad for therapists type, but for the therapist listening, like, this is heavy shit. Like, we
Yep.
have to process it for ourselves, and then we have to like sit and re-experience it and process it with other people,
Mm-hmm.
constantly learning the nuances of how this decision impacts all of our clients, which is a beautiful gift. But I think that's part of the reason why I'm such a slow to respond person. So if you've seen me here kind of disconnecting, it's not because it's not deeply impactful to me or important
Mm-hmm.
to the people I love. I mean, existentially, shit, my husband's Canadian. I'm already like, hey, coming for us gays next. Like, um, like, what's my exit plan to get out of
Can
America?
your
Like,
husband adopt
that's
me?
going,
Can he adopt me, please?
right.
I'm
Like,
already got my
that.
application. I'm ready.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like um reserved, but like that's all happening on the inner world, and probably why I was good at like working in crisis intervention work, because you're just like, okay, this we're dealing with a lot of stuff here. And so
Mm-hmm.
honestly, just show up for yourself. It can I'm not such a fighter at first, but I can be like intensely angry, and people fight in different ways. But kind of to underscore your message of just like, just be today. And maybe that's mourning deeply. Maybe it's being afraid, and that's okay. Like, um, for most people, we're at the moment kind of physically safe. But that's kind of at the point of this where it's like, it's an appropriate anxious response or fear response because we are actually being threatened. And so it's a hard thing to distinguish between. But so yeah, just kind of whatever's coming up today, like, not only like, thank you for reminding me of that, Erica, and Amy, thanks for being here and like just showing support, but then everyone listening, like, just be today, and that's okay.
Yeah. I decided first thing this morning I'm making tacos for dinner
Mm.
because that solves all my emotional problems.
The low road, yeah.
It's
I
great.
like, there's a lot, like, could be some coded wording in there, like some stuff to unpack. But I had a colleague once kind of talk through someone who was like kind of consulting about a case, and was like, here's a high road and then here's the low road. And it's kind of
Mhm.
always stuck with me, where it's like, it feels like for a long time we've been hovering in this low road.
Yes.
Um, and this is another time to say that's okay, because it's likely untrue. Like, we don't live here often, but
Yeah.
um, the piling on nature of it, where it's in some ways like too much is happening too quickly, and
Mhm.
just kind of go back to self.
Absolutely. And I I don't think, to be completely honest with all of you, I will be releasing a additional wrap up episode. So this is the wrap up. Shit's still on fire. A new season of the podcast will be coming. Good news though, and not too many spoilers. Garrett will probably be involved, but that's the only spoiler you're going to get. That sex talk is probably going to expand. My entire business is called mental and sexual health, so it's going to be bigger, better, lots more support for lots of different kinds of folks out there. And the other part of the wrap up episode, which I'm still going to be happy about, damn it, is I am this close to being done with my dissertation. And I have my results and I'm finishing writing and editing, and I'll be defending my dissertation very soon. So, but there will not be a new season until after that has finished. So I will be joining all of you as Dr. Erica once it's done, which is really exciting. But also, it's
That's
the shittiest of days.
so close. So close.
So close. That's why. That's part of the reason why I didn't want to publish it, because I'm like, there was a lot of me talking about the research and gushing about how excited I am about it, and it just doesn't feel right today. It just doesn't feel right today.
Well, I
But
think that speaks volumes of you, of like showing up, like the authenticity of just being in the here and now. And this is today, and it is shitty, and there's a lot to unpack. I have a client who always tells me, he always leaves a little room for hope. Um, and so today, when I was trying to like cope with seeing my
mm,
friends and being there, where I was like, for some reason, I was like, I've got to compartmentalize and like move through the day.
mm,
Maybe do psychedelics later. Um, but also like what is like pulling together, and what does hope look like? What is
yeah,
um, the power of community and collective? But anyway, blah blah blah. Thanks for I don't know. Thanks for asking me to like be here. I think you have this power, and your audience probably gets it too, where it's like you say something and people listen. So
mm,
thanks for creating the space and kind of inviting me. I really was resistant because part of me, I think I've made clear, is like I'm not your guy.
mhm,
But also like there was a part of me that did want to be around people in a contained way, that like,
mhm.
I don't, different from like my friends and family, where it's like I don't want to
Yes,
be that scared just yet. I want to like kind of
yeah,
slowly ease into like whatever. So thank you for that today. I appreciate it.
absolutely. I'm happy to do it. I'm just happy. I was so happy that you're willing, Amy. Thanks for sitting with us. And any of you therapists out there listening, any of you other folks out there listening, we're with you. We're sitting with you. Whatever comes up today is okay. Be gentle with yourself, be gentle with the people around you. And, tacos are always a good option. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I hope you have at least some rest this weekend, and we'll see you soon.